Hey, wait a minute. Why is spring ball so early?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, by the way, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail where wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right. Hello. Welcome. It is Tuesday. This is the Locked On Nebraska podcast. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is here with me. We have not spent a lot of time about this since the announcement was made, a week or so ago, that Nebraska was going to hold its spring practice a few weeks early this year. They actually start 2 weeks from Saturday. That will be Saturday, February 21st, the same day that Nebraska has brunch in basketball against Penn State at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Oh. So, yeah, I think it's a noon game. That one is a basketball game. So probably no media availability on the first day because they expect that people will be over watching the basketball game. I think we'll get to hear from Matt Rhule and some players and probably some of the new staff, Rob Orich maybe, in the days leading up to spring practice. But expect lots of football developments here starting before the end of the month, which is new in the world of Matt Rhule's Nebraska football. They've generally started a little bit later and then gone into April for the spring game. Or last year it wasn't a game, it was a series of silly things that they did at Memorial Stadium. This year, the spring game will be on March 28th, and that's after Nebraska takes a week off for spring break. So why do you think they're doing this? I think that's a question that we've not asked or answered. Why are they starting on February 21st instead of going well into March like we've seen in the past, which allows Nebraska to then have a more extensive period of winter conditioning here in January, and now it's February?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's probably a variety of different things. I mean, it is also possible that it just comes down to when Matt Rhule wanted to, and I don't know why he might have wanted to. I mean, maybe he's got travel plans in April or something like that. I don't know.
You think?
I would imagine he takes a little bit of time off, but it could be something like that. I don't know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage. It probably is an okay thing for Nebraska to get to work on starting to clear the deck from last season, just with how sour the taste is in everybody's mouths from the way it ended. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't know if it's a good thing either, but as far as the reason why, I don't know. Do you have any insight on that, Mitch?
Well, you bring up a good point. Maybe he's going to film a limited series in April or something like that.
Yeah, he's got places.
He's advanced on from the podcast, and now he's going to become an actor. Now, I don't think it's because Matt Rhule's got other things that he wants to do in April, so he had to clear his calendar and open things up. I have a theory, and we'll talk to him about this when we get the opportunity to do that in a formal setting. I saw him on Sunday at the basketball game. He was hanging out outside of the Nebraska locker room, and gave him a nod and a wave and went about my business of covering the basketball game. But I think
you should have asked him a question, like a really long question.
I stood like 15 feet away and asked him, you think? Oh, yeah. Okay. That would have been one option.
Just wanted to test, to see if
I still got it.
Yeah. See if you were ready at all times. Yeah.
Yeah. I could have started it with something like, hey, earlier today you said that and then you always want to. It's always beneficial, or it's sometimes beneficial to lead into a question by referring to a previous answer that he had. Hey, back in December, you said that.
Remember when you said that?
Yeah. No, I have a theory as to why he's doing this, and I think it's because they are eager to wash the taste away from the 2025 season. And it went about as off the rails as it could have on the field in the second half of November, everything after the UCLA game, and right on through bowl season. And at the end of the bowl season, I think Matt Rhule was just kind of without answers. He was just like, well, we tried all kinds of new stuff. I put myself in charge of the D-line. I wore the backwards hat in the bowl game, and we still got the snot kicked out of us out here against Utah. And I don't have a whole lot to tell you that's new. And I don't think he wants to live with that in his mind. And I think that they just decided, what is the quickest time, the earliest time that this team can get on the field and begin to move on from that. Because until you do, and I understand they're doing team things right now, they're lifting, they're working out, although they're certainly not sharing it in public ways like they have in some previous years.
Thumbs up on that.
You like the thumbs up. I like it when they do. I like seeing what they're up to, but I think they're just kind of laying low, and they don't want to think anymore about 2025. So the quicker they can get out on the field, it also allows them to get started with this team in a way that you just can't quite do in weightlifting and running. Yeah,
sort of starting to, like, as you're explaining it there, like, crystallize in my head a little bit, like, now, not that I'm thinking back in the olden times when the players would go home for several weeks. They basically live in Lincoln now, but they're already on campus because they're going to school in February and in March, except for the 1 week of spring break, and you get them back at the end of it, and then you could start your off-season your summer program in April while they're still in school, like while they're still there. And there's a little bit of a routine to it and stuff like that. Not that that's a huge deal, but you could kind of get started on that kind of stuff too, where I imagine there will be a lot of individual work and, a lot of quarterback, wide receiver, running back stuff, just those guys getting familiar with each other. So, I think it makes some sense for sure.
They need to get to know each other. They have a new quarterback, two new quarterbacks. They have Anthony Calandria, and they have Danny Kalen, who's kind of new and is going to be new with a lot of the players who are blocking for him and who he's handing the ball off to and who he's throwing the ball to. So the quicker you can start to develop any kind of chemistry between those players, and the best way to do that is to be on the practice field. Like, the best way to do that is to play games and to have a season. Well, you can't do that in February, March, April, but you can have real practices. And if you want to wait until late March to start that stuff, I think you're just delaying the process of allowing those players to get comfortable with each other. And why not start it early and then be done with it early? And if somebody gets hurt, which happens in spring practice, and they're going to have a spring game again this year. Last time they had a spring game, they had two relatively significant injuries back to back early in that game. And those players were held out for long periods of the season that followed. And if you've got something like that happens in spring practice, and your practice is from February 21st to March 28th, those players who have injuries, whether they're minor injuries or something bigger that requires surgery, they're going to have more time to get healthy and get ready, not just for the season that starts in September and preseason camp that starts in August, but also for the important OTAs that Nebraska is going to hold in June. So you allow them to be healthy, and that's because that's an important time as well. And then I also just think that this period in between the return from the bowl game, like when the semester begins and when they start spring practice, which is generally defined by a lot of just grunt, hard work, a lot of the mat drills that they've really invested a lot of time into propping up the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of that stuff is de-emphasized in this era of highly paid players and players who transfer. So many transfers in the program, just like the mobility of football players and all college athletes today. Not to say that they don't work as hard, but I just think some of that kind of we're in college, we're going to go out and like pull sleds around in the snow. Some of that is just kind of going by the wayside because it's pro sports now.
A lot of it is like, they've done, and it hasn't just been under Rule, like other coaches, during this time that we're in right now, you're kind of trying to find ways to keep guys engaged, right? Like, how do we get them to buy into whatever, wacky offseason training program we have? And the Matt Drills was one of them. And, they bring the military guy in for a week and they'd go out to the pool or something like, and all that stuff. And that's good. That's worthwhile. Like, that's team building and stuff, but Nebraska needs to get better at football. Like, so playing football, as you said, is the best way to get better at football. So maybe de-emphasizing that and playing football is the right way to go here.
And then the last thing I'd say is just they have so many coaches who are in new spots, important positions that are new spots. And it would stand to reason that like that's going to be the case in a lot of years. If you really struggle in one area, then that's the area you're most likely to have change on the coaching staff. But in coming out of 2025, the areas that Nebraska struggled are so essential to winning in college football and in the Power Four, and especially in the Big Ten, and especially when you're in Nebraska. Offensive line play, defensive line play has to be just a massive and major emphasis for Nebraska between now and the time that it plays a football game in September. And there's just not any time to waste. Like, get those guys out there on the practice field with Jeep Wade and Lonnie Teasley on the offensive side, those 3 new transfers who are going to be expected to compete for starting positions. Get them out there in practice. And because everything that they do in the offseason that's not a practice will be better and you would hope more together after they have had a practice. And the same thing on the defensive side with Rob Orich running the thing and Corey Brown and Roy Manning with the edge rushers. Like they need to get on the field and know what they have at those 2 position groups.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, let's take a break. A couple of news and notes from Monday as we take a look around. Coming up next on Locked On Nebraska.
All right, this is the time where we talk about Mazda and its moving the game forward segment. You hear it every week. This is for those who show that there's more to the score than what's on screen. We're going to highlight a player or a coach or a fan or a moment or something in sports that defines what matters. And this week, as we told you on Monday, it is Braden Frager, Nebraska's freshman forward on the basketball court. He's moving the game forward with his return on Sunday for Nebraska, scoring 20 points. He showed his spark on offense. We saw his aggressive play and all that he provides for Nebraska on the basketball court. He's a big part of the reason why Nebraska is 20-2 as we get into this first full week of February. And he's showing he has what it takes to raise the bar because of the work that he's done off the court. Frager dials in every detail. He provides fire. He gives that I never quit kind of grit. Mazda puts that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There is more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you back here on Locked On Nebraska. And thanks for making us your first listen today. And thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You are a part of a beautiful, beautiful family here at Locked On. All right. So EJ Barthel has been, on the recruiting trail, visiting a variety of different places, but also sending out messages to his incoming players as well. Yes. He wrote on Sunday on social media to Jamal Rule, Nebraska's incoming running back, who, figures to be sort of in the conversation given that there's not a lot of guys with a bunch of carries in that room right now. Great job while we were on the road recruiting. You've been handling your business with Coach Corey and Ms. Kristen. Step one, looking different. Hashtag wait no knit. Wait on it. Hashtag PTR.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know what the PTR stands for. Primetime rule, primetime runner,
Yep,
primetime rookie. I don't know. But EJ, he wanted people to see this. Otherwise, he would have just sent it as a text to Jamal Rule, but he put it out there on Twitter. So Jamal Rule is the first one of these freshman mid-year enrollees who we've heard about from a member of the coaching staff that's getting it done early in the offseason. And he's at a position where we assessed the Nebraska depth and experience, and we all said, that being you and me on this show, hey, Nebraska needs to prioritize a running back in the transfer portal. And then not only did Nebraska not sign a running back in the transfer portal, it didn't appear to really recruit a running back in the portal. At least nobody that we're aware of came in on a visit. Nebraska wasn't seriously involved with any of the running backs that were out there. And Matt Rhule is on the record saying that he likes what Nebraska's got. He likes Mekhi Nelson, justifiably, understandably so. He likes Isaiah Mosey and Quentin Ives. And now E.J. Barthel likes Jamal Rule. So are we looking with Jamal Rule at the kind of player who, I get it, it's early. They're not going to get on the practice field for another couple weeks. And even then, we're not going to really know a lot about Jamal Rule. But I would say he, at least at the very minimum, he plays a position where you would want to see good things being said about him early here in his time in Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still pretty dubious. I'm still pretty skeptical of what they have at that position, and I don't think anything that happens in the next 7 months is going to stop me from doing that at this point. But you're rolling with it now. I mean, we could plead all we want in the offseason and during the transfer portal period, but this is sort of what you got now. So, I think there has been a history of the staff, trying to say, hey, look, these guys are doing a great job. These guys are doing a great job. Maybe especially at positions where there is some public cynical skepticism about where they're headed this fall. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't read into it a whole lot, but that's the group. That's what they have.
So Jamal Rule, 6 foot, 205 pounds, and that was before he got with Coach Corey and Miss Kristen, as EJ put it in the message there. Got good size. Comes in as somebody who could be an impact player without necessarily changing his body. I'm optimistic that Nebraska might be able to get something from a running back that isn't among that top three, whether it's Connor Booth or who redshirted last season, or Jamal Rule. So I will have a lot of eyes and ears, more ears than eyes, because we won't see so much of spring practice on what's happening starting here in a couple of weeks at that running back spot. Really interested to see how that spot is shaping up. I think it's ultra important to Nebraska's ability to have an effective offense with Anthony Calandria. He needs a threat back there. Doesn't necessarily need to have a 1,500-yard rusher like Emma Johnson provided for Nebraska in 2025, but I think they need to have 3 backs or 4 backs who can go out and match that kind of production by committee. And maybe Jamal Rule will be one of those guys. Who else should we look at? And I know you perhaps are not looking at the list of Nebraska's signees right in front of you, but fortunately I am. Who else do you think, or what positions do you think we should look at here when spring practice gets started, or when Nebraska progresses deeper into the offseason as freshmen? We've talked a lot about the transfers and where Nebraska has to get production at that transfer spot, but where among the freshmen or who among the freshmen is it most important for Nebraska to find help with?
Yeah, I don't know if this would be like a necessary thing, considering that there's already some pretty decent depth back there. But I think you go to like the top guy in the class, and that's obviously Danny Odom, according to the rankings. So there's potentially a way that he gets involved in the in the proceedings on the field, even though there's some guys who've played a lot of snaps back there. That's where I would look to first.
I think he's a special player.
Yeah, that's what the recruiting rankings say. So maybe he can get involved right away in some sort of capacity.
If you're the number one corner in the country, this is according to 24/7. They have him after the final rankings that are out. I assume these would be the final. There's not any more football or all-star games or anything like that to change rankings on. And he's in college now, so it shouldn't change. Right. But the 24/7 rankings list him as the number one corner in the country, the number 2 player out of the state of Florida, and 18th nationally. He has a 5th star. He's a 5-star cornerback recruit. It's been a while since Nebraska's had somebody like that, especially out of the high school level. I mean, you go back to Zach Bowman, and that's a long time ago. That's like 15 years ago for Nebraska to have a 5-star DB coming in. So, yeah, and he's got size and length. It's not just that he's 6 foot, 190 pounds, but if you saw him in just a little bit, as I did in some footage from, I believe he was in the All-American Bowl, or it may have been the Under Armour Bowl. Long arms and just somebody who's can just naturally be very good in coverage. The other player I would look to is Luke Sorensen, the tight end from Anaheim, California. Played at a big time high school, Anaheim Servite. So he's going to have seen competition. It's what Nebraska sees in the first couple weeks of the season in his true freshman season. Should be no real shock to him coming from that league that Anaheim Servite plays in. And I think at the tight end spot, Nebraska is going to be looking for somebody to step up and be a contributor. And it might just be Luke Sorensen. It might be the Luke and Luke show with Lindenmeyer and Sorensen. And of course, Nebraska has Carter Nelson and some other pieces at that spot as well.
Yeah, and like I said though, you have some youth still, but guys who have played some, so it might be a little bit more difficult to sort of get involved in that conversation as early as they might want to. Also, speaking of Twitter, one more thing before we go here. There has been a recent run on many Twitter accounts being hacked, and Ed Foley has been pulled into quicksand, unfortunately.
Ed is deep in the throes of it. I just got a DM from him literally as we were talking on this podcast, and it says,
did he want you to vote for his podcast award?
Yeah, that was earlier today. This was earlier today at 7:36 a.m. as we're recording on a Tuesday. He said, "Hey, I need a quick favor. I've been nominated to co-host a major podcast event with Spotify and Google. And your vote would really mean a lot to me. Truly, truly grateful for the support." I kept clicking on it and I couldn't.
No,
I didn't. I didn't. And then just 13 minutes ago, I got another DM from Ed that says, "Please vote for me. It's really important. Thank you." He's also been posting about crypto. He bought a new car apparently, and he's got his crypto advisor on here with some sensitive financial information that he's some sheets that he's been posting with all of his portfolio out there. So it's a little bit of a different strategy for Ed. I don't know what Matt Rhule's got him doing right now, but he probably could be could be a little busier if he's posting about crypto. I'm kidding. He's not. He got hacked, and we're with you, Ed. You're
good luck.
You're hurting right now. He needs to firebomb his X account and completely start over. Sadly.
For some people, the problem is so not to put him on blast too much, but I believe our dear friend Damon Benning was also caught up in this, and he was wondering how to get it back, and he didn't know the original email he signed up his Twitter account with, and it's like this. I don't think he's getting it back. I think it's just his Twitter account belongs to the crypto bots at this point in time. So if you get anything from Damon, don't click on it probably on Twitter.
Oh, it's really all just very sad. You need to go with the two-factor. Is it if you have two-factor authentication, are you then safe?
I don't know. I think they could. I don't know. I'm not sure. They might be able to get through it either way. But
I shouldn't laugh too much because I'll be next.
Yeah, you never know. You could be next at any time.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk some Nebraska basketball. And also, we need to at least say one thing about the Super Bowl that's unrelated to the game. And we're going to do that all week. That's coming up next after this.
First word from Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who can match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move for you, because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your posts, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, life skills, certifications, and locations. So if I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who could help. I would want someone with real experience who could jump right in. This is going to give you the opportunity to weed through some of that stuff that you just don't need to see. It saves you time. You're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you are hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/locked on. That's Indeed.com/podcast, actually, I believe. Indeed.com/podcast, rather. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
Final segment on this Tuesday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. So as I said before the break, any random Super Bowl topics unrelated to the game are welcome fodder for us on the show. On Monday, we talked about what Connor's going to be cooking up in his kitchen gadget. What's on your mind? I have one if you don't.
They were talking about, there was a lot of conversation about how spread out all of the things are in the San Francisco area for this game, who just experienced some earthquakes on
like 30
on
earthquakes today.
Yeah. Rough. So, traffic is a little bit tricky, and there's a lot of different things that are spread out, like the stadiums in Santa Clara and the media hubs in like San Jose, and like there's a whole bunch. So it seems like a bit of a disaster compared to, like Phoenix or whatever, or you could kind of put it all in the same place or something like that. So I always look forward to the media complaining about that during Super Bowl week.
Yep. Complain about how you got your all expenses paid trip out to watch the Super Bowl because you had to drive a longer distance and stay in a hotel that had a leaky shower or something like that. It
didn't have a giant, like, extravagant water fountain in the middle of it. You just had to stay at one that had some other sort of water feature.
And the practice facility was far away, and then your lunch was cold. So, all right, that'll be fun. We'll watch for more of that this week. I'll save my I wouldn't say it's a hot take, but I'll save my Bad Bunny our Bad Bunny conversation for later in the week. That's we'll
you have a take about Bad Bunny?
I don't know if I have a take. I have a thought. I have
now that is a tease. I cannot
I have
wait.
Something I want to say. You can find it on the Wednesday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Nebraska basketball. Huskers slid 4 spots to number 9 in the Associated Press top 25 on Monday. They are 1 spot ahead of Michigan State, as would make sense since Nebraska beat Michigan State. Michigan is number 2, Nebraska's first loss of the season. Illinois is number 5, Nebraska's second loss of the season, which occurred on Sunday at Pinnacle Bank Arena. And then Purdue, Nebraska's next home opponent after Fred Hoiberg's team goes to Rutgers on Saturday, checks in at number 12. So pretty reasonable, I thought. Not that it matters, but these things influence public opinion to a certain degree. Maybe they seep their way into the minds of the selection committee in one way, shape, or form. Huskers still sitting at like a borderline 2, maybe a 3 seed after back-to-back losses here, which is just fine.
Yeah. And I think the thing that you wonder about is just how do you sort of handle the week. They obviously hadn't experienced a week where they had lost a game yet, let alone two, and both sort of tough losses last week. So you have the entire midweek to think about it before making a trip to Rutgers this next weekend. I think it's probably a good thing for Nebraska, just mostly from the perspective of, like, you just want to make sure the next time you go out there, rink mast is fully rink mast. He's full mast on when you play this weekend against Rutgers. So I think
half
probably
last couple of games.
You don't need to be half mast anymore. You need to be full mast when you get this thing back going again. So probably a good thing to get more sea legs underneath them and get rolling again.
Did you see the tickets, the ticket situation for the Rutgers game? Did you guys discuss this on your radio show on Monday? So crazy thing going on with the tickets for the Rutgers Nebraska game on Saturday. They're giving away some kind of trading cards at the arena that the Rutgers Scarlet Knights play at, and these things are valued. They're very expensive, and they're giving them away. I saw in one report that some people have been reselling them for up to $600. And
whoa!
Anyway, they were robbed, as you might expect. In well, I don't want to say that, but it's not. It's not Lincoln out there in Piscataway. It's perhaps a higher crime area, or maybe it's not. Anyway, I never mind. I didn't say that. They were the Rutgers have reportedly got robbed millions of dollars worth of these one-piece cards that the school is giving away. They're still giving them away. So
what the heck?
Little side story. We'll have to look more into that as the week goes along. I was unprepared.
Shout out to the Rack, or the artist formerly known as the Rack, now Jersey Mike's Arena, who's famous for playing a song that I like. I first took notice to this, when Nebraska would start making trips out there when Rutgers joined the league. It's like a Wonderwall, like Oasis Wonderwall, like dubstep club remix that is just absurd. I hope they keep doing that. I hope they're still doing that. And I can't wait to hear it very, very loudly when Nebraska's out there this weekend.
Okay. Two items that to abruptly change this. We're going to shift away from basketball because there's two items. One is basketball related. The other is not basketball related, but I want to make sure we have this on the podcast on Tuesday. I'm looking at this to try to make sure that this is real, what I'm looking at on my phone. It appears that Josh Martin, Nebraska's special teams coach, assistant coach, the guy who, along with Nick Humphreys, was set to take over the special teams in the absence of Mike Eckler, who has left for USC. Josh Martin is now the head football coach at Liberty Christian in Texas. Yes, this is the Liberty Christian Warriors in the state of Texas. So there's a quote from Matt Rhule about Josh Martin on this Liberty Christian Twitter post that I was sent. So there goes one of the coaches that was going to handle the special teams work for the Huskers in 2026. So when you thought like that the carousel was done spinning and everything was in place, there's now more uncertainty about what's happening with the Nebraska special teams.
Yeah, look at that. Wow. Kind of crazy. I mean, he was walking into a potential, like full-time. I mean, everything's full-time now, but I
don't imagine that he was going to get the title of special teams coordinator and the salary of one Mike Eckler if he's leaving to become a head coach in the Texas high school level. Although, Texas high schools are pretty big time. I don't know that this Liberty Christian is like on the level of Allen High School or anything like that. But anyway, Josh Martin is gone, so we wish him well, and we have no idea what Nebraska's special team coaching situation is actually going to look like in the months ahead.
Crazy. Yeah, that's a loss. I mean, I guess considering what the plans were at that position.
So breaking news there. And then one other item from Sam McEwen of the Omaha World Herald, published Monday. evening in the Omaha.com section of their publication. He talked to Troy Dannen on Monday, and Dannen is very happy with the way things are going with the Nebraska basketball team. So back to basketball talk. And he said, this is the big reveal from this article, that Nebraska will be upping the percentage significantly of the revenue share pot that is devoted to men's basketball in the 2026-27 academic cycle, which means that it has to get taken away from another program. And there are only a few programs that receive revenue sharing money. Football getting the lion's share of that, men's basketball, women's basketball, volleyball. I believe baseball and softball get a small little chip there. But for the most part, if you're going to take money away from another sport in order to significantly up the percentage of rev share dollars given to basketball, you're going to have to take it away from football, volleyball, or women's basketball.
Yeah. I mean, and he said rev share dollars too, which is sort of fascinating. He said they will get a significant percentage increase in the rev share dollars.
I'm talking about outside NIL here.
Right. Which I we talked about it before, but I will assume the money will increase from that perspective as well. They're going to have some players, and Dannen said this, who are going to be in high demand. Like, so you can't, like, regardless of if you don't think that they're going to be, interested in leaving, you have to at least say this out loud. Hey, we're going to be competitive. So, come after Braden Frager and Price Sanford at your own risk, because we're going to have the dollars to keep them. Like, it's a good message to send.
It may be a situation where Nebraska finds that it's easier to raise money to fund the football roster, and it can then devote more of the third-party NIL to football and take some away from what football gets in that $20 to $21 million rev share pot, but maintain the level of salary for the football players, or even increase the level of salary for football players while giving basketball more rev share if football has a jump in its outside NIL money. So
yeah. So there's going to be an increase. That's what happens when you win. But interesting to hear it from him that there's going to be a lot of it that comes from the actual rev share dollars, which is sort of fascinating. All right, something to sit on for a couple of days. I'm sure that'll come back up in the next several weeks, and certainly after the basketball season as well. That will wrap it up for us today. Appreciate you making Locked On Nebraska your first listen. If you're watching on video, we're going to send you over to the first ever national 24/7 Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel, and on audio, make your second listen Locked On College Football. We'll talk to you tomorrow.